Hello and welcome to the St. Lucie Public Schools introduction of the Teachers of the Year for 2016. I'm Kevin Perry, your host for the show, and it is a pleasure to introduce you to some of the brightest and best educators that we have in St. Lucie County. All of us have sat in the classrooms of many great teachers. Throughout the history of the world, great teachers have inspired, comforted, persuaded, and motivated. All of us can recall a certain teacher, a very special someone who inspired us to learn. Regardless of their fields of study, they were all visionaries who led by example and whose actions transformed lives. Every day, we, along with 100 million parents, entrust our children to teachers. They instruct them, discipline them, guide them, coach them, and inspire them to fulfill their potential. They teach social skills as well as social studies, self-esteem as well as spelling, and they teach tolerance as well as typing and enthusiasm for learning as well as content mastery. They have to be counselors, mentors, friends, disciplinarians, as well as masters of their subject matter. This program presents some extraordinary men and women whose timeless wisdom echoes the integrity, the strength, character, and passion of educators all across our district and our nation. This program is a tribute to and for teachers and celebrates the special and often heroic role they play in the lives of students. This program is, in our small way, an opportunity to say thank you to those who educate, encourage, empower, and inspire the students of the world. And we welcome today to the show Mr. Joseph St. Rose, who is the fantastic Teacher of the Year at Fort Pierce Magnet School of the Arts. Mr. St. Rose, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me, Dr. Perry.
Along with Mr. St. Rose is the very dynamic Mrs. Jackie Lynch, who's the wonderful principal at Arts Magnet. Ms. Lynch, we welcome you as well to our show. Mr. St. Rose, on behalf of our district, we congratulate you, and we want to start by letting you introduce yourself to our viewing audience. Tell them a little bit about who you are and the grade and subject or subjects that you teach at Arts Magnet.
Okay, well, my name is Joseph St. Rose. I teach at Fort Pierce Magnet School of the Arts. I teach middle school math.
Middle school math.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of middle school math?
Well, we teach algebra, basic geometry, basic statistics, 6th grade, 7th grade.
Okay, 6th and 7th grade.
6th and 7th grade.
Wow, okay. 3 preps. I heard that. Where did you attend college and university?
Marylhurst University, which is in Oregon. I got my undergrad in real estate studies. I achieved a MBA in finance.
Okay. Mrs. St. Rose, as a teacher in middle school math, middle school of all places,
yes,
a wonderful time and for students, what is your favorite part of teaching?
Well, my favorite part of teaching is the interaction I have with my students, the ability to sit there and, help the light go on, when they're struggling through different things. When our kids come to us to learn, they struggle with a lot of missing pieces that they should have gotten over the years, but unfortunately did not. So, we have to kind of knead and work and help them to connect to this curriculum that we are teaching.
Let's continue. The students that you're working with in middle school, they are all a part of this information technology age. Mm-hmm. How do you naturally infuse technology in instruction?
Well, what I do, a lot of times I use PowerPoint, computer, where I can pace my lessons, give them a chance to see the structure of what the formulas and stuff that we're trying to put forward. We do, like in a lot of situations, I have children in my class who are different language, they have different language challenges. Like my first year of teaching, I had Chinese students who spoke no English. So I had to quickly regroup and figure out how I'm going to connect him to the curriculum. So what I did was I used Google Translate, and I used to do like subtitles for him in Chinese while the lesson was going on.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, differentiating instruction at its best.
Yeah.
Tell me this. When did you decide that you wanted to be a teacher?
Well, I decided I wanted to be a teacher many years ago. In the time I was in the business world, because I come from a business background in real estate, and I was always teaching people different things, but I really wanted to connect to younger children and try to make a difference. And I targeted the middle school grades because I know that's the time that kids need to really get the academics, because by the time they get to high school, if they haven't filled in those blanks, then they're lost.
When you made that decision that you wanted to become a teacher, did you reflect back, and is there one teacher, or is there a teacher that inspired you think, to become a teacher?
Yes, in fact, I had a teacher. First teacher I had was my mother, who taught me a lot. And then by the time I got to high school, I was kind of turning off from education at that time. I was getting bored. But I had a French teacher who came in, and she made the class lively, fun. She gave us all kinds of interesting things to do, connected us to her culture, in a lot of different ways. We didn't have all the technology they have today, but she used to bring in the French dishes and, talk to us about different things that happened in the French society, French culture.
Great. Mrs. Lynch, you see the dynamic work that Mr. St. Rose does every day. When you visit his classroom, what do you hear and see?
Well, generally when I walk in a classroom, it's what I hear, see, and also what I feel. And generally in his classroom, each and every day, it's a sense of safety. You feel safe. His voice tone is just as you're hearing now. It's very calm. It's encouraging. Academically, we see he's generally always focused on his learning goal. He's generally repeating their learning goal throughout the lesson, reminding the children. And we hear the children interacting in small groups. If it's a whole group instruction, it's a lot of interactive conversation back and forth, a lot of dialogue as opposed to monologue in his classroom.
When we look at Teachers of the Year, we often see that they're highly involved in the total operation of the school. What other activities, committees, those kinds of things is Mr. St. Rose involved in on campus?
Well, he's actually involved in many different aspects of the school. One very important is our governing body is the SAC committee. He leads the SAC committee as SAC chair. He also took on a new initiative for us, which was the rap battle. And he took the 5th grade group to the rap battle and won.
And won.
So
that's very important.
And a testament to, again, the safety that he provides for all students when he's in their company. These students didn't know him. So he provided that safe environment of caring, just a wonderful nature of trust that these children were committed to stay after school and work with him. And he partnered with another team member at Fort Pierce Magnet and took him to the top.
Great. Mr. St. Rose, when we look at DQ5 of our quality instruction framework, it's all about engagement. How do you purposefully plan engagements for your lessons?
Well, what I do is that a lot of this year, I've really focused a lot on rap and how we connect, how the kids connect the vocabulary to the concepts and create their own idea or putting when I set them up for the rap and they start putting the vocabulary words together, you can see the excitement. So my engagement, the way I engage them is that I give them a lot of activities where they're creating the rap, competing against the other kids in the class. We have something we call a cipher where the kids go out there and they form a circle and they kind of do back and forth, a little freestyle, and they remember the mathematical concepts behind it. It's not just about rapping the words, it's about connecting the curriculum to what their background, because all these kids come with a background knowledge. They understand rap. They know the beats, and by saying the same thing over and over again, it connects to the content.
If I'm not mistaken, you're using music to teach math?
Yes. We are.
Wait, we're integrating the curriculum, the arts into the curriculum?
Yes.
I think that's a concept of Fort Pierce Magnet School of the Arts.
Yes, it's been going back in its history.
Oh, that's really exciting to know because you're really connecting vocabulary.
Yes.
And vocabulary for the specific content.
Yes.
And those who read succeed, and students have to understand the language of the content so that they can master the content.
What's exciting too is that, some of my kids are struggling kids. Some of them don't have a lot of what they need to be successful. But they'll rap about inverse variation, direct variation. You know, when you ask them what is inverse variation, they go through the rap and they can tell you exactly what it is.
Any way to help them remember and focus
Yes.
so that they can draw from that knowledge when it's necessary for them
Yes.
to use it.
And he let them perform it on stage at our Student of the Month each month, too.
Yes.
So they have the performance outside as
Oh, and they
out
love it.
classroom.
Yeah, they love it.
Is there something new and exciting that you may be working on in addition to what you've told us?
Well, new and exciting, I would say I'm going down the same vein of integrating the music with the curriculum. What's happening now is that we're doing like a video now for the kids who won the rap battle, where they're going to really highlight the school, and we're going to be able to do, I would like to do a few more projects like that where we get the rap going a little stronger than we're doing.
As Teacher of the Year, you may be called upon to share advice with other teachers. What advice would you specifically give to new teachers?
Well, I would tell them that the very first year they're teaching, content is very important. But more important than the content is to get their classroom management together, because new teachers struggle mightily with classroom management. So I would tell them that while they're really putting their lesson plans together and organizing and spending time structuring, that they need to focus on really keeping the kids engaged, because if they don't keep the kids engaged and the kids are not focused on what you're talking about, basically, they're lost.
Must have a classroom that's conducive to teaching and to learning.
Yes.
What advice would you give to parents and our students to help ensure that they are a success?
Well, what advice did I give them still? I give them advice by telling them that they need to, like, I have a Facebook page, I have a Twitter account where I connect all the videos that we do in class, or the lessons we learn. They have videos online that the kids can actually look at. So I make that available to the parents, and I tell them that, they need to, without trying to be too, I don't want to control how they run their homes, but my concept of kids learning in class is kids who, from Sunday night to Thursday night, there's no video games or any of the other things that we usually use to babysit our kids with. They need to study, read books, really get deeper and do their homework, and make the reward on Friday night when they can just get loose and play whatever they want to play.
So having parents reinforce the instruction by using the same kinds of materials that you use.
Yes.
Ms. Lynch, let's fast forward. Mr. St. Rose has been selected as the Teacher of the Year for St. Lucie Public Schools, the Teacher of the Year for the state of Florida, and now the National Committee is calling you. The first question is to you, Ms. Lynch. Please describe Mr. St. Rose using 3 adjectives. What would your response be?
Number one is a family man. He, regardless of whatever aspect he's connected with, he always goes back to his roots of what's important to him, which is family. He has a beautiful family with 2 beautiful girls, beautiful wife, and I think that's what grounds him and keeps him focused in every aspect of his life. Second, I would say he's honorable. He's also represents the military, so honor is a very important part of everything he does in his teaching, in his relationships, in his professional developments. Everything is done with honor. And the third being focused. He focuses on instruction, standards. He's very research-based. Any decision that he makes in his classroom is based on the research of John Hattie, Slavin, Johnson & Johnson. He's living in the framework. And so everything he does is focused on delivering the best medicine to keep our children healthy academically.
I love that term, living in the framework. That's very important for instruction, because those strategies are based in over 60 years of educational research, and they're sound, strong instructional practices. The committee is going to follow up with a question for you, and simply says this: what makes Mr. St. Rose the perfect candidate for this honor?
I think because he is perfectly aligned with the expectations of the state of Florida, certainly with our own district, and certainly, very simply, what's right for kids. He doesn't embellish anything with something that's not purposeful, with things that do not have integrity. So he does run a classroom that is based on integrity. He runs his relationships, his organizations are all based on running through these organizations with integrity, that it's done for the right reason and in the right way.
Is there anything else that you want to add to us about your fantastic Teacher of the Year?
You know, I think when people meet Mr. St. Rose, as I did the first time I met him on an informal meeting. He was visiting somebody at school. He's a very nice person. He's very kind. And that was my first impression of him, is he's just a very good person. And then as I got to know him, I learned he was a good family man, to learn that he is an excellent teacher. And he's moving forward into the leadership position soon, as he's finishing his degree in leadership. So I think he's just very well-rounded as a person.
Great. Mr. St. Rose, just a couple more questions. How are you preparing your students to be career and college ready?
I'm preparing them by making sure that they have the requisite skills they need to get there. I constantly preach to them about improving their academics, because by the time they get to high school, it's too late. This is a very crucial stage in their life, and I try to emphasize that. I also prepare them by looking at the data. The data is fundamental. You know, you can see exactly from benchmark to midterm to progress monitoring to FSA, you know, what strands kids are missing, and you kind of help them fill in those gaps.
Final question for you. When will you know that you are a success?
Well, I can go on a little bit about that, if it's okay. First of all, I'll know their success by the data. I'll know their success by how their lives turn out, how the continuum from my classroom to their adult life transitions. Also, in spots where, like, for example, in one of my classes a couple of years ago, we were doing I Have, Who Has. It's a game where a person pulls out a card. I have, you know, the square root of 91. Who has, you know, anyway, bottom line is that I used that in one of my observations, and a student jumped up and said, I get it. I get it. I finally understand what you're talking about, Mr. St. Rose. The game helped me out so much. So I use academic games. When you talk about engagement, I use academic games. I use rap. I use everything I can do to keep them encouraged. I try to keep them focused. I also try to teach them life skills as best I can from a teacher's perspective. So the ultimate reality of whether they're a success or not is how their lives turn out a few years from now.
Mr. St. Rose, congratulations for being selected the Teacher of the Year for Fort Pierce Magnet School of the Arts. Ms. Lynch, thank you for joining us as well. And I'll leave you both with the words of Thomas Groome when he said, "One mark of a great educator is the ability to lead students out to new places where even the educator has never been." Thank you for leading and guiding our students at Fort Pierce Magnet School of the Arts, and congratulations on your selection.
Thank you, Dr. Perry.
Thank you.
Hey, Hard, what's this?
That's my resignation letter.
You're resigning.
Why? Because you're constantly ignoring me. You're half as active as you used to be, and you get stuff like this. You've been putting me under a lot of pressure lately. That's why I'm ready to quit.
I forgot. I'll do better. Please, don't quit on me.
Okay, but remember, it's not what you say, it's what you do.
Listen to your heart. Don't let it quit on you.
Let's go for a walk.
Uncontrolled high blood pressure could lead to a stroke, heart attack, or death. Get yours to a healthy range before it's too late.
At this time, we'd like to welcome Mr. Robert Beasley, the dynamic Teacher of the Year for Fort Pierce Westwood High School, to our Teacher of the Year highlights. Welcome, Mr. Beasley.
Thank you, Dr. Perry.
Joining Mr. Beasley is Mrs. Jacola Barrett Baxter, who's the dynamic principal at Westwood High School. Ms. Baxter, welcome to you.
Well, thank you.
As we said, Westwood High School, once a Panther,
Always a Panther.
It is indeed to welcome you and to celebrate you, congratulate you for being selected for the wonderful work that you do at Westwood with our students. Mr. Beasley, would you first introduce yourself to our viewing audience? Tell them what grade and subjects that you're teaching at this time.
Oh boy. My name is Robert Beasley. I'm a Fort Pierce Westwood High School alumni, class of 91. I have been at Westwood for 4 years now, and I currently teach English 4 honors, English 4 college prep, AP literature and composition, student success, a dual enrollment class from Indian River State College, and college computing, which is also a dual enrollment class from Indian River State College.
Let's go back before I jump back on that question. What university did you attend, and what was your program of study?
Program of study initially, University of Central Florida was English. So I do have my Bachelor's of Arts in English. Secondary was Educational Technology, which is a master's degree from Walden University. And of course I have Educational Leadership and Law courses from Florida Atlantic University.
Now, when you mentioned the subjects that you're teaching, what is all entailed in your instruction, the subject matter?
Wow.
If you can kind of narrow them down, kind of
narrow
give
it
us a
down.
synopsis.
Individualism, analysis, and being able to engage multiple intelligences, multiple personality types, and multiple curriculums across content areas.
And you mentioned English 4, so are you teaching only seniors this year?
No, sir.
Okay.
I have, actually, I have 10th graders that are dual enrolled, 11th graders dual enrolled, and then primarily seniors after that.
Teaching back at your alma mater, what is your favorite part of teaching?
Interaction with the students. I absolutely love, especially when they get it, and seeing them, I know this is going to sound a little bit strange, the initial struggle, and then
I understand
the
that.
epiphany or the aha moments are extremely valuable and very rewarding to me as an adult.
When students don't always get it at first, but then they continue to stay focused and work through the process, and slowly but surely the light comes on.
And then the reward that they get from that, and you get that from kids who return or kids that former students that are thankful for that process as well.
You mentioned that your master's degree is in educational tech.
Yes, sir.
So how do you naturally infuse technology in your instruction?
A little bit of a speed bump, but of course there's the everyday PowerPoint, maybe presentation. However, we have to go beyond that. The times have changed. One of the things that I incorporate into lessons, which are also part of Common Core or Florida State standards now, there are speaking and listening components that are relative to language arts. And some of those speaking and teaching or speaking and listening components have a multimedia attachment to them. So there are expectations of students to complete multimedia type presentations. That is across content areas for myself and for my students. And actually all of the courses that I teach, there are multiple components throughout the school year that require them to access those standards, access the abilities associated with those standards, and access the technology and work with that. Additionally, one of the things that I've been working on over the past couple of months is flipped classroom model, and I've had help with from the administration and with instructional coaches that are assisting me in that process, and I'm in the process of implementing a program that the district uses called Edmodo. It's a Facebook-like, I want to call it an educational networking tool instead of a social networking tool. It allows students to communicate with me and one another and the content.
And the content.
And the content. So where you would traditionally have textbook only or print handout only interaction at home, you now have in your pocket, cell phone, tablet, PC, web access to all the material. So a student is capable of pulling out their personal electronic device, whether it be in the classroom, on their job, in the family car, on vacation. Wherever they are, they have access to the material, access to the content, and the ability to negotiate and work with peers to solve problems and work towards a common goal.
As a teacher, when did you decide that you wanted to be a teacher?
The reason why I'm smiling is that somewhere, and I know it's not in my home, but I know it's in my parents' home, there's a video from a school board meeting, probably early 1990, maybe 1991, where in the Delaware offices we had a presentation, and the superintendent at that time, I would like to say it's Mr. Hill, but I'm not sure, asked me that very same question and asked me what I was going to do with my future. And I said that once I returned from college, that I would like to be a classroom instructor in St. Lucie County.
Wow.
It's kind of funny how that works.
Well, let's since you can go back to the early 90s and you are homegrown, can you say that there's a teacher or maybe a group of teachers that inspired you to become a teacher?
A couple of the individuals, one is Jacqueline Steele. She was a staple at Fort Pierce Westwood for a while. I still do see her every now and then. She was a journalism instructor at that time. I had her for several years at Westwood. She was a driving force. She actually guided me after graduation in college and assisted me in getting a job at the Fort Pierce Tribune prior to my employment for St. Lucie County Schools. And a couple other ones, Barbara Bretherick, the Hueys, both Mr. and Mrs. My father, of course, he was a teacher, and there were quite a few influential people at Fort Pierce Westwood at that time.
Great. Ms. Baxter, you have the wonderful Mr. Beasley on your campus, and you get to enjoy instruction on a daily basis with him. Tell us, what is it that you see and hear when you enter his classroom?
Well, a lot of times we're, as administrators, entering classrooms. We just kind of make it the point of our duty. But in Mr. Beasley's case, he is one of those teachers that seeks us out in terms of coming to administration and saying, I want you to come and take a look at, or my students are doing a presentation today, I'd like you to come in and sit down and watch them. So he's constantly inviting us into his classroom. And so when we go into the classroom, we see students engaged in the process. Is the process always easy for them? Absolutely not. Students are well aware that Mr. Beasley means business and he has some high expectations. So the work that they may be tending to might be a little difficult for them at times, but they have the level of respect for Mr. Beasley to grapple through that process. And as he mentioned earlier, it's amazing to see that when they get to the end of that process and that light bulb comes on. I've had conversations with students who have since graduated, and I can think of one student in particular who Mr. Beasley was constantly on. You got to be on time, you got to have supplies, you got to get this turned in on time. They're in college now and came back, and the exact words of the student was, Mr. Beasley got me ready for this. That was her. And so he does that for students because it's about getting them ready for the next adventure in life, which is graduation, the workforce, whatever that may be.
When you enter his classroom and you do that on a daily basis, we know that there's a lot of learning going on and with high standards, rigor, and expectations. But to make a schoolwork, it takes more than just that interaction in the classroom. What other activities do you see Mr. Beasley being involved in on campus?
Mr. Beasley is involved in a lot of things. His hands are in different aspects of the school. He is always willing and offering assistance from professional development to mentoring of new teachers. Right now we do have a few subs on our campus, unfortunately, and so the level of instruction is at the same place as our veteran teachers, and that's partly because of Mr. Beasley. He's in those classrooms, he's getting with those subs, those new teachers, and making sure they have what they need to be successful. And if they're not being successful, if he's not able to assist, then he'll come to us and say, look, I've talked to this teacher, this person needs whatever it may be, what can we do to help? And so because we're not always in the trenches, he's able to be that go-between between administration and those teachers that might be struggling. And if not, kudos. If a teacher is knocking it out the ballpark, you know, he just recently came to me about a new teacher that had kind of taken over a department meeting, new to Westwood, and he came and shared with us how it was a tremendous meeting, and the teacher was right on the money with the process. So again, it's offering the support, whatever that support may be.
Mr. Beasley, we know that in our in quality and framework of instruction, that DQ5 is all about engagement. How do you purposefully plan engagement in your lessons?
That all starts with how you chunk and introduce your content. I think it's very important for you to, before you actually say, hey, I'm going to do this, to take back and look and see what that entails, to look how you would invite students to engage initially with the content, what kind of hook you develop, what type of introductory lesson you have. how those elements of that introduction lead into the main instruction for that unit. That initial chunking and the concept grabbing activities are extremely important for initial engagement. As you work through that process, you need to keep the engagement levels high by not only developing highly engrossing work, but developing work and activities in an environment in which students feel comfortable in sharing opinions, comfortable with the content, and have a support structure not only with the instructor in the classroom, but with their peers. So one of the things that's absolutely necessary in the classroom and development and planning stages is you have to take a look back at how all those things interact with one another. And I think it's very important for any individual in the process, whether it's with my work or with when helping someone else design something, to take a look at all aspects of it. And that's extremely, it's very important for me. It's a very difficult task, but again, the rewards that lead to the aha moments and so on and so forth are there.
As a Teacher of the Year, we often call on you to speak to others. What advice would you give to new teachers?
It's difficult because I talk to so many different people from different walks of life. So as a first-year teacher coming in, I would have to tell them, first of all, to relax. It's a highly stressful situation. You might be new to the city, you might be new to the area, you might be new to education. You might be first step out of college, first step into a new career, or coming in from any walk of life. And that relaxed attitude from the teacher helps them manage their anxiety, because you have things coming at you from so many different directions that it's important to relax, take a step back, look at everything around you and how it develops, and interact with those individuals so that they become comfortable. Once they're comfortable in their shoes, that's when they start taking steps like the young lady that Ms. Baxter was speaking of that took over my planning meeting a couple of weeks back. It took her a few steps to get inside the door, and once she got inside the door, she started making herself at home, and when she finally did, once she relaxed, she was awesome.
Ms. Baxter, Mr. Beasley has an opportunity to be Teacher of the Year for St. Lucie Public Schools, state of Florida. But think about this. The National Committee is calling you, and the first thing they ask is to describe him using 3 adjectives. What would they be?
I would say tenacious. I would certainly say very deliberate. And I would say certainly has a passion for what he does. He doesn't take this job lightly. He's always looking for a way to improve himself, improve the department, improve the students. And he knows sometimes he'll come in and we're having a meeting and he'll bust in that door and say, I was thinking. And we'll stop and we'll listen and we're all giving him those eyes, and it dawns on him, he goes, "Oh, you guys were in a meeting, were you?" Yeah, Mr. Beasley, we were. But because he's extremely focused and he wants to do what's best for the school and the students sitting not only in his class, but in the other teachers' classes. And so sometimes he sees things that we don't see, and he's always willing to say, how about? It's not always, it's never, here's the problem, I told you the problem, I'm backing up now. But there's always, what if we tried? So.
Their follow-up question to you would be, what makes him the perfect candidate for this honor?
I think several things. Again, a lot of people on the outside think, education, teachers, they've got all summer off, they go home at 3 o'clock. But it's so much more than that. And a lot of times in education, we say that there are people who know the content. There are people out there who know how the atom splits and they know the theorems in mathematics. But can you relay that information to students? And not only can you relay that information, but can you do so in a manner that students are flocking to that knowledge and wanting to gain that? And he does that. He pulls that out of our students. all of our students are not coming to us out of the best situation, but you would never know that in his classroom. No one is any better or any different. We have who we have, and he's going to do whatever needs to be done. In the capacity of Teacher of the Year, it would be the same in terms of building that in other teachers. You know, teachers come, as he mentioned, from different walks of life. They come with different experiences. And so how do we go about making teachers better? There's always room for improvement. And so he has the ability to bring that out in people, and he does it with the utmost sincerity.
Final question for you, Mr. Beasley. When will you know that you are a success?
When my students are a success.
Oh, wonderful answer. I'm going to leave you then.
Yeah.
I want to tell you thank you for joining us here as we highlight the Teachers of the Year for St. Lucie Public Schools. Ms. Baxter, thank you also for joining us.
You're
And in the
welcome.
words of Albert Switzer, he says, sometimes our light goes out, but is blown back into flame by another human being. Each of us owes deepest thanks to those who have rekindled these lights in all of us. So thank you for continuing to rekindle those lights in the wonderful lives of our students as they continue to matriculate through your classrooms at Fort Pierce Westwood, where once a Panther.
Always a Panther.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Perry.
I'm a teacher. Let me tell you what I make. I make learning a privilege, not a chore, and frustration a tool, not an obstacle. I make working hard seem easy and giving up impossible. I make an old subject feel like a fresh thought and unconventional methods common. I'm a teacher. I make more.
It is our pleasure to welcome to our Teacher of the Year highlights, Ms. Christian Shee, who's the Dynamic Teacher of the Year for Francis K. Sweet Elementary. Ms. Shee, welcome to our highlight show.
Thank you.
Joining Ms. Shee is the dynamic principal, Ms. Juanita Wright from Francis K. Sweet. Ms. Wright, we also welcome you.
Thank you, and I'm delighted to be here.
We are so excited to have this opportunity to highlight the wonderful work that educators are doing and those teachers that have been selected as the Teacher of the Year for our schools for the 2016 year. Ms. Shee, let's start by having you introduce yourself to our viewing audience. Tell them a little bit about your background and also tell them what grades you're teaching and the subjects that are encompassed in that grade.
I am currently teaching 5th grade, and I'm teaching math and science. We get to have our groups split up, so I get to teach 2 groups, math and science. This is my 11th year teaching at Francis K. Sweet. All of the other years, except for one, I was in kindergarten, so this is the first year that I was able to move up and take the big leap to 5th grade.
So are you seeing some of those students that you had in K?
I do. I have some of my past students, and it's exciting to see them all grown up now.
What school did you attend and what was your program of study?
I attended FAU, and
Oh,
I
wow.
did elementary education.
Okay, alrighty. You told us already about the subjects that you're teaching, but tell us, what is your favorite part of teaching?
Oh, I love seeing the kids get it. When they get that math concept or some sort of specific skill in science, when it clicks, I love to be able to see them be able to apply it and use it.
Have you always known that you wanted to be a teacher?
I didn't. I grew up, my mother was always a teacher or an administrator at local schools, and I decided I was never going to be a teacher. I got to volunteer enough when I was a kid, and then I went into business, and I decided, well, maybe business isn't really for me, and then I completely switched majors. So all of my electives for my elementary ed degree were all of my business classes.
Is there someone that inspired you to make that decision?
I think originally it was my mother, seeing that she really loved that act for teaching, but it was really teachers in middle and high school that really solidified my decision that that is where I wanted to be, to see that they were working in not necessarily the best of schools, and they were able to make the children succeed and for us to have a good time while learning.
The students that you're working with in 5th grade, they are all a part of this information age, and they've had technology in their hands probably since birth. How do you naturally infuse technology into your daily lessons?
We always have all of our electronics on in the classroom. We are always using our CAB system, so we're always being able to display the materials that we're using. The students are also able to display their work or see other students' work to be able to critique it or to analyze what's happening.
Ms. Wright, speaking of her dynamic classroom, when you visit Ms. Shee's classroom, what is it that you see and hear?
I see students working in cooperative groups, supporting each other in the learning process. I hear yeah, I got it. I hear students explaining to other kids, and I just see the excitement that the students have for learning in her class.
As a dynamic teacher and a representative of all the great teachers at Francis K. Sweet, I'm sure that she's heavily involved in the total operation of the school. What activities or committees is Ms. Shee involved in?
Well, for the last 2 years, she's been out because we don't have a math coach. So she's been sort of like our math coach. She goes to the district and receives the district training and brings that back and trains all of our K through 5 teachers. Very good in technology. So sometimes she helps Mrs. Adrian out when a teacher has a problem with their technology. If Mrs. Adrian is not around, we can go to Mrs. Shee. She's our data person that we go to for our PBIS. She keeps our data on the students' information, and she reports that monthly to our data team meetings and also our school advisory council.
Ms. Shee, when we look at our district's quality framework for instruction, grounded in over 60 years of research, DQ5 is all about engagement. How do you purposefully plan engagement into your lessons?
I want to make sure that my students are, first of all, have the prior knowledge, because they won't be able to engage in a lesson to make sure before I know that they have some sort of background. But I want to always make sure that the students are working cooperatively, because I see that when they're being able to discuss what they're learning or be able to teach someone else at their table, that they are always engaged, whether they're the learner or the teacher at their group.
As a teacher of the year, you're really an ambassador for the school, for the district. What advice would you give to new teachers?
Take a step back and sometimes just know that everything's not going to get done in one day. That to know that the students, you're there for the students and not necessarily there to put on a show, and to survive that first year. That first year, you have so much support, and to use it, and to know that it's not always going to be perfect, and there's always another day, and the kids are going to love you no matter what. Just to keep teaching.
When you look at the idea about giving advice, let's ask, what advice would you give to a student and or parents to help ensure that that student is a success?
Students definitely need to be able to voice that they need help. A lot of students and parents don't know that they can say to a teacher that they have some sort of voice for themselves, that they can say, I need help, or I didn't understand that. Sometimes they feel like they don't have that right, or that they can. They just keep following along with the lesson.
Ms. Wright, Ms. Shee has already been selected the Teacher of the Year for your school. She's on her way and possibly will be the Teacher of the Year for St. Lucie Public Schools, the Teacher of the Year for the state of Florida. So you get this phone call from the Committee for the Teacher of the Year for the nation. The first question is to you. It says, describe Ms. Shee using 3 adjectives. What would your response be?
She's energetic. She loves the students, and she stops at nothing to make certain that the students are getting the concept. Very involved in. She has a website for her students, and she explains the lesson. Parents and students can go to that website. So she stops at nothing to make certain that the students and the parents are getting the information and knowing how to do the skills that she's teaching.
Their follow-up question to you would be, so what makes her the perfect candidate for this honor?
I think first and foremost, she is a learner. Even though she's completed college, she still learns and imparts that knowledge, not only to her parents, not only to her students, but her colleagues. She is forever, trying to find those strategies and activities that will get that concept or that skill over to her students. So first and foremost, she is a learner herself.
Ms. Wright, is there anything else that you may want to share with us about Ms. Shee and her selection as Teacher of the Year?
Well, I know she's going to represent FK Suite well, and we're looking for her to go on and win the state competition because she has proven that she is a phenomenal teacher.
Great, thank you, thank you. Ms. Shee, how are you ensuring that your students are career and college ready?
We're always working cooperatively in our classroom and working on how to be able to speak to people, because I believe that's something that not everyone out in the workforce necessarily knows how to do. They just kind of scoot along. But I want to make my students proud of their work and proud of the others around them, and being able to voice their opinions and their knowledge to share it with others.
Here's my final question to you. When will you know that you are a success?
When my students are a success.
Yeah.
And that's definitely it.
Well, we want to thank you. We want to congratulate you for your selection as the Teacher of the Year for Francis K. Suite. Thank you for coming on our highlight show as we honor and thank all of those teachers who have been selected this year. Ms. Wright, we thank you for joining us as well. And I'll leave you with the words of the dynamic Krista McAuliffe, who said, "I touch the future, I teach." Thank you for touching the future and for all the tremendous work that you do for our future, for our students every day as a teacher there at Francis K. Suite.
And
Thank you.
Our students are truly blessed to have you as a teacher.
Thank you.
We're fortunate.
Thank you again.
Thank you so much, Dr. Peter.
Which planet are we living on? Right here.
What do you think it would be like to teach?
They're all a part of our...
Chances are, you have no idea.
We're going to turn on the lights and everybody look up.
Teachers today are breaking down obstacles, finding innovative ways to instill old lessons, proving that greatness can be found in everyday places, and that you don't need to be famous to be unforgettable. That's what it's like to teach.
At this time, we'd like to welcome to our Teacher of the Year highlight, Ms. Dolores Garcia, who's the dynamic Teacher of the Year for Lakewood Park Elementary School. Welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Perry.
It's a pleasure to have you. Joining her is Ms. Diane Young, who's the dynamic principal at Lakewood Park as well. Welcome, Ms. Young, to the show.
Thank you very much.
It is a pleasure for us to have this opportunity to speak with you and to tell you thank you for the work that you do with and for students each and every day. Let's get started by simply having you introduce yourself to our viewing audience. Tell us what grade you teach and the subjects that are encompassed in that grade.
At this time, I'm teaching 5th grade math at Lakewood Park Elementary, so I'm involved with the math in 5th grade.
Math in 5th grade. So in 5th grade, since you're only teaching math, that means you see a certain amount of students, like a rotation of students.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
What school did you attend and what was your program of study?
I attended Nova Southeastern University. I received a bachelor's in varying exceptionalities. And then after that, I continued my studies and I obtained a master's degree in TESOL, teaching English to speakers of other languages.
Tell me this, as you look back at your career as a teacher, what's been what is your favorite part of teaching?
It has to be when the light bulb goes on when kids are learning. And just to hear them say, I understand it now, or, oh, I got this, or I like math now, and the comments that I get from them.
It's really neat when we understand that sometimes students struggle through a concept, but they stay focused, they stay tenacious, and they grasp that concept, which helps them and allows them to do something else. So that is always wonderful to hear and see the aha in our students. We know that our students that you're teaching were probably born with some type of technology in their hands. They daily use technology for one or more reasons. How do you naturally infuse technology in your instruction?
I love using PowerPoints, and I love getting them engaged. And what I'll do is, for example, one of the lessons that I tend to focus on a lot is going ahead and pose a question up there in a PowerPoint form, then allowing them to have team talk, in which they talk with their team members, and they don't only discuss what they think the answer is, but they explain why they think that is. And if someone disagrees, I can go around at that time and monitor and just kind of scaffold and see who's getting and who's not getting it, and allow them to share why they think that's the right answer or not. And then we can go ahead and we can look at the answer can be the next PowerPoint. We continue in that format. And also as a document camera and little mini video clips that show the lesson so they can see it in a different way.
When did you know or when did you decide that you wanted to be a teacher?
At first I was a business administration major, and then I went into a part-time job as a preschool teacher. And then at that moment I developed a passion for teaching.
Wow. In developing that passion for teaching, did it cause you to think back to your career as a student?
It did.
And in thinking back then, can you say that there might have been a teacher that kind of inspired you?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
My second grade teacher.
Okay.
I noticed that Mr. Roberto, I noticed that a lot of the stuff and a lot of strategies he used, I started doing naturally on my own without realizing it until afterwards. And he was very hands-on. He used centers, and he was very positive, and he used a lot of positive reinforcement and token economy and different things going on in the classroom. So he was a motivator, and I didn't realize it until that moment.
Mrs. Young, you see the dynamic work that's going on in 5th grade with Mrs. Garcia on a daily basis. What is it that you see, and what is it that you hear when you visit her classroom?
I will tell you that when you walk into the classroom, no one will notice you, because they are so engaged in the lesson and what they're doing, not with only the teacher, but in their small groups with their partners, that you can come, you can look over their shoulders, and they won't miss a beat, because they are so engaged in what's happening in that classroom that you can't distract them from their learning. I will also notice that if there are others in the room observing, that they, as adults, are so focused on the lesson that they too will not notice that you've come into the room. That it's like a magnet. When you walk in, you want to be a part of the lesson.
What activities do you see Mrs. Garcia involved in that are part of the total operation of Lakewood Park?
Well, first of all, I have to say that when we needed a 5th grade teacher this year, she was willing to move from 3rd to 5th because she saw the big picture. She saw what we needed to do as a school. She said, I know what my strengths are. I think I can help the team this way. And she came to me with some suggestions to really move the school. In addition to that, she's a very active part of our math committee, and when we had a Winn-Dixie math night, she was over there putting in extra hours to get ready for that, as well as any activity that we have on campus. Ms. Garcia will be in attendance, and will be encouraging her kids and their families to be there too.
I heard Mrs. Young use the word engagement, and we know that DQ5 in our quality instruction framework is all about engagement. So how do you purposefully plan engagement in your lessons?
That's a good question, Dr. Perry. Once we have our lesson plans done, I notice that just automatically on my own, I get that lesson, and before the day, I actually plan it out, and I want it to go smooth. So I think, how am I going to get the kids engaged? How am I going to ask these questions? Am I going to do it in a way where actually they're using communicators? Am I going to do it in a way where we're actually asking a question and the kids are reading it chorally, and then they're quickly doing a team talk, talking with their team, and after they do the team talk, they're going to go ahead and give me the response, and we're going to do it that way. So in the morning, I actually break it down, because I know classroom management has to do with actually that engagement and just how I'm going to manage the response rates. What exactly am I going to be doing? Also, another part with DQ5, you really can't plan the whole thing beforehand. I think it's really important during the time. Also, a lot of the planning takes place automatically. For example, movement. If the pace is going too slow, or if I need the energy levels too low, at that moment I have to say to myself, okay, we need a break. Okay, let me plan a break after this question. Or there's a lot of planning during the lesson itself with
Tell me
DQ5.
This. As a teacher of the year, you're the ambassador for the school. Oftentimes you have to speak to many different people, groups of people. what advice would you give to new teachers?
That's a good question. I was just talking to a new teacher. The other teacher that's in 5th grade with me that's doing math is a new teacher this year. And I actually asked him that question. And he said, find people that will ask you questions, ask you a lot of questions. He goes, for example, what you did to me at the beginning of the year. You asked me questions like, for example, pencil sharpen, this, that, and it had to do with the classroom management and helped me so much with classroom management. So I would definitely say, work on your classroom management and find teachers that are experienced and allow them to ask you questions anytime you have a difficulty in the classroom. And by asking those questions, it may actually help you resolve the problem.
What advice would you give to students and or parents to ensure that the student is a success?
For the last several years in my classroom, I have a banner that says never settle for less than your best. And that's a banner that I'm constantly going over with the kids in the classroom. Never settle for less than your best. Never settle for less than your best. And they even chorally say it in the classroom. I would definitely tell them never settle for less than their best.
Great. Mrs. Young, here we go. The National Teacher of the Year Committee is calling because they want to interview you because she's in the running.
Quite possible.
Yeah, we know. The first question to you is going to be, tell me, describe Mrs. Garcia in 3 adjectives. What would your response be?
Okay, I would have to say perceptive, I would have to say inquisitive, and resourceful. And let me tell you why I choose those. Perceptive in the fact that when I walk into her classroom, I see her doing just what she said a moment ago, watching her students with disabilities, her students who are ELL students. I've heard her speak Spanish to them and bring them back or answer questions that they were off track. I've noticed her go to students with disabilities and pull them during that group talk, and she becomes a partner with them. I've also noticed her watch the class and seem to know when there needs to be a change in order to keep everyone engaged in the lesson. So that's why I say perceptive. I say inquisitive because she herself is a learner. She's always looking and researching and bringing to me and to others materials that she has found or ideas to make instruction better. And resourceful, I would say, because whether the resources are present or whether it's something that we need to get or whether it's something that might come out of the closet, whatever it is, she is willing to go that extra mile to find the resources necessary to meet the needs of all of her students.
The committee will follow up with this question. So what makes her the perfect candidate for this honor?
I think that she is a model teacher. She is a role model for all teachers. It doesn't matter the subject area. I don't even think it matters the grade level. But I would be honored and actually would consider sending anyone into her classroom to say, watch her in action. You need to see her in action as she engages with students and builds relationship with children, and then knows her content area. There's not a question of, is she presenting correct content? It's there. And if she doesn't know it, she studies and works before and after school. So absolutely would set her up as a perfect example of what we hope for our children, our teacher, for our child would be like.
Is there anything else that you may want to add as we talk to you about Mrs. Garcia as the Teacher of the Year?
I would say this. I know that there are so many diverse students that come into our classrooms and within our district and within our state. And students who are coming from a variety of backgrounds, and they're welcomed into her classroom, and students are made to feel comfortable. They can learn, they can feel as though that we have no hesitancy. We give it a try because that is the spirit that she gives in her classroom.
Mrs. Garcia, how are you ensuring that your students are career and college ready?
I believe this is the foundation right now and the basics, and they need it in order to be college ready and career ready. So it means a lot to me in the classroom to make sure that I give it my all in them actually learning what they need to learn at that grade level and giving it to the rigor that they need it.
Here's my final question then to you. When will you know that you are a success?
You know, I kind of gauge myself daily, and I kind of short term and long term. Daily in the sense of it's not just the assessments that we have on a weekly basis or the end result, but it's the gains that I see within my kids, because I have some kids that were extremely below grade level, and then I see them making tremendous gains, or I just hear them saying, oh, I got this now. Oh, I love math now. I understand this now. And every time I see that going off, it helps me to know that, okay, this is great, they're getting it. And it's successful. It makes me feel proud as a teacher that they're getting it. And I enjoy seeing that. And also, when we have our test scores, it means a lot to me to see that they're actually making those gains and where they were before and how far they've come.
I just want to say congratulations to you again, and thank you for sharing this time with us so that we can highlight you and introduce you to our viewing audience. Mrs. Young, thank you for sharing with us as well.
Thank you.
And as we close, I just want to leave you with the thought of Diana Becerra when she said, teachers are like flowers. They spread their beauty throughout the world. We thank you for sharing your beauty and spreading your beauty with the wonderful students that you teach every day at Lakewood Park Elementary. Congratulations.
Thank you, Dr. Perry.
Thank you.
I'm one unlucky guy. The chance of being involved in a robbery is 1 in 757. The chances of being struck by lightning, 1 in 750,000.
Please fasten your seatbelts for unexpected turbulence.
The chances of being a victim in an airline crash, 1 in 29 million. Hey, could I get some peanuts? The chances of being involved in a car crash are far greater than lightning strikes and plane crashes. And if you are texting while driving, your risk of crash increases 23 times. Now, I may be an unlucky guy, but I don't have to be part of that statistic, and neither do you. Drive responsibly.
We'd like to welcome to our Teacher of the Year highlight, Mr. Robert Plowden, who's the Dynamic Teacher of the Year for Samuel S. Gaines Academy. Mr. Plowden, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Joining Mr. Plowden is Ms. Tracy Wilkie, who's the fantastic principal at Samuel Gaines Academy. Ms. Wilkie, again, welcome to you as well.
Thank you, Dr. Perry.
Let's introduce you to our viewing audience by having you tell them just a little bit about your background, the grade that you teach, as well as the subject that you teach, Mr. Plowden.
Okay. I am a product of St. Lucie Public School. I'm a graduate of Lincoln Park Academy. I continue my education career at Florida A&M University, where I have a bachelor's degree in political science. Also attended Nova Southeast University, where I received my master's degree in education leadership. I teach U.S. history, 8th grade at Samuel S. Gaines Academy, and that's my background with social studies and education in St. Lucie Public Schools.
Let's talk about what might be your favorite part of teaching.
That's a good question. My favorite part of teaching is seeing the students get the concept, understanding the lesson that is being taught. When my students reflect on their learning and they can say, Ms. Plana, I do understand, I can reflect, I know the mastery of the skills that is being taught.
Being able to teach students to reflect on learning is a very, very important skill concept. All of the students that you're teaching, Mr. Plowden, are part of our information technology age.
Right.
How do you naturally infuse technology into your instruction?
Well, I strive to make my classroom in the 21st century in the global world. We use Discovery streaming, where they watch real videos, and they use what's going on in their everyday lives. Real world application. Also, they use plickers, where they can record. I will have some questions at the end about the end of the lesson. It's a multiple choice app that I can scan the whole room, and it record the students' choice for their response. And the kids are very engaged in that. They really like to see their names pop up and see if they got the question correct or not.
Well, yeah, it's very important to use those skills, those strategies, those devices that have been a part of their lives since day one to foster better knowledge and understanding. When did you decide that you wanted to be a teacher?
Well, I guess I would have to say it was kind of like destiny. I can remember my teachers at Lincoln Park always saying, "Robert, you're going to teach the teacher." Even though I went to school for political science, I want to do something with government, but it has always been one of my life lessons. And my father is a teacher, so I come from a family of educators. My dad's a teacher, my aunts and my sister is a teacher, so I guess it just came in the DNA as being a teacher.
Okay, you talked about your dad and you talked about your sister and family members, but would you say that there may be someone else that was a teacher that may have prodded or inspired you to also become a teacher?
Yes, he's now the principal at Lincoln Park, Mr. Stanton Brewer. I remember him in 10th grade. He was my language art teacher. He came in the middle of the year, and he was the last period of the class, and I can always see Mr. Stanton Brewer, you know, the lesson, how he had it engaging, and I wasn't very strong in language art. That wasn't my funnest subject at all, and with him being there, I kind of liked his style. I liked how he had that military strict background. That's how I was brought up at home as well. And so he was one of the ones that inspired me.
Ms. Wilkie, you have the pleasure of visiting Mr. Plowden's class every day and seeing the energy, the enthusiasm that goes on in instruction.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us, what is it that you see and hear when you visit his classroom?
A lot of what Mr. Plowden has already shared with you in regards to that focus on standards, which is really something, obviously, that we focus on. But with the standards, not just the content, is those changes that we've seen and the shifts of the standards and how instruction is delivered. And it's interesting to hear Mr. Plowden talk about his an area that might not have been his finest area in high school is something that now he really really infuses in his instruction now as a history teacher. A really large focus on literacy, including reading, writing, listening, and speaking. So when you go into Mr. Plowden's classroom, you're going to see that rigor in the text. Kids are text marking. Kids are doing closed reading. They are working with partners and collaborating, answering high-level questions and within a written response. And we are also an AVID school, and Mr. Plowden's on the AVID site team, so you will see a lot of the AVID strategies, teaching strategies like Cornell Notes being employed in his classroom. So students really are, when he says that what jazzes him the most perhaps about teaching is that when you see kids get the concept, well, there's not a better way to see kids get a concept than when they were able to put it into writing or talk to their peer about it. So kids are on target, they're engaged in high-level thinking, and they're learning.
You mentioned that he's a part of using the AVID strategies that are part of your school, but can you tell us what other activities, committees that Mr. Plowden may be involved in at Samuel Gaines?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Mr. Plowden was, this is my second year being the principal at Gaines Academy, and he was one of the first people who got with my secretary, and I need to see Mrs. Wilkie, I need to meet with her. He was meeting with me the day after I was assigned. And so that just tells you what kind of teacher and how involved he is in activities. He is the team leader, and he leads his team, 8th grade team, very well. He also this year worked with the Million Father March and the activities at school for that. He is on AVID. He's been part of PBS and writing the PBS plan and working with that committee as well. I know I'm forgetting something, Mr. Plowden, but he is, and he's always the first one at the MLK parade. And always the first one to say, I have an idea. Can we bring these people in? Can we do this? Can we do that? So very involved in different levels.
Very involved in making the school, the total operation of the school flourish for faculty and staff members, but most of all for students. I heard Ms. Wilkie, Mr. Plowden, talk a lot about the engaging environment. DQ5 of our quality instructional framework is all about engagement. How do you purposefully plan for the use of engagement in your daily instruction?
Always, it's never a dull moment in my classroom, and the different strategies that I use, and like Ms. Moog was saying, AVID strategies. I'll use, all my lessons are pretty much done with AVID strategy, especially talk around, talk fast. My children really enjoy using that concept and that activity in learning new vocabulary words in the room. Also, they have what is called Get the Gist, where they have to write 10 words or less on a sticky note, and they have to place it, and it's a timer, and you can see the kids are writing 10 words or less and try to place it on the chart paper. Those are different engagement activities that I try to use in the classroom.
Is there something new, something exciting that you're involved in this year that you want to share with our viewing audience?
Yes, I was involved in the Million Father March. That was a huge success to see all the fathers to come out to the school and bring their children and getting to know our school and the expectations and stuff that are available for them. Also, I facilitate a PD with some small learning community going through the St. Lucie framework of learning the different engaging activities that we can use or reflecting on learning.
So not only are you delivering instruction for your students each and every day, but also doing some things to further enhance the knowledge of our faculty members as well.
Yes, sir.
As a Teacher of the Year, you may have to speak to many different groups, organizations. What advice would you give to a new teacher?
The advice that I would give to a new teacher is don't be afraid to ask questions. Always attend PDs that are available. I wasn't an education major at all. I really didn't know all what entitles, and as you know, education is always changing daily. And I just want to know, just always be available. Don't be afraid to ask questions. There are helpful teachers. And at Sammy Gaines, we have the best staff who was there to help me, and just being available and ask questions.
What advice would you give to students and or to parents to ensure that the student is a success?
For parents, being an active learner, we have what is called coat binders at our school. Check their student planners. Get on Skyward. Being active participate activities and PTO at the school. For students, don't be afraid to ask questions. I know students are like, oh, Ms. Pratt, I didn't know you were so. No, ask questions. There's no dumb question without an answer. So always ask questions.
Ms. Wilkie, Mr. Plowden has been selected Teacher of the Year for St. Lucie Public Schools for the state of Florida, and now the National Committee is calling you. The first question that they have for you is, describe Mr. Plowden using 3 adjectives. What would be your response?
Okay. I have 3 adjectives. The first one would be a leader. He's a leader in our school. He's a leader of his team. He's a leader of his classroom. He's a leader in the community as well. One other thing that I didn't want to go back to, something that Mr. Plowden does, is volleyball with the girls volleyball team. So he's very active and shows those leadership skills in many capacities. The other one is a learner. He really is, you know, that coined phrase of a lifetime learner. Mm-hmm. Mr. Plowden loves to learn. He wants to have new information, and when he gets it, he makes connections with it, and he employs it in whatever appropriate way there is. And the other, likable. Truly. So you got my 3 L's? Okay. He is. He's looked up to and admired by his colleagues and as well as his students. And we know that kids learn when they know, when they have that relationship and it's mutual. Being likable is something that's really important.
Leader, learner, likable. Mm-hmm. The committee will follow up, Mrs. Wilkie, and they would say to you, okay, he's a leader, he's a learner, and he's likable. But what makes him the perfect candidate for this honor?
Passion. He has passion for the content that he's teaching. He has passion for the field of education, the profession of education, and for each individual student that is on the 8th grade team, really, and I'm going to say for the school. There's not a student that, if a student came in Mr. Plowden's area of touch, he would take that student and mentor them and find what it would take to make that student successful.
Okay, Mr. Plowden, we know that you're a leader, you're a learner, you're likable, and you're very passionate. But tell me this, how are you preparing your students to be career and college ready?
I prepare my students each and every day to be career and college ready is by understanding AVID. And I know that we're the only school in St. Lucie County that has AVID for our middle school students. And we are always looking at different career opportunities. We're always looking at different ways, understanding what college to attend to what makes a good job, what are the characteristics of getting a good job. And that's always done during my instructions, and especially on Fridays when we have our college and career day. And what I do is every Friday is that the kids have to dress up in white or black shirt with long jeans, but hard bottom shoes. And that's what we're trying to do to make them know to be ready.
Here we go. Final question for you. When will you know that you are a success?
I would know that success is when the students master a concept and shows on their assessment, their tests, and most importantly, when they reach their dream. That's when I know that I made a success in a child's life.
Mr. Plowden, it's been a pleasure for us to have this opportunity to introduce you as the Teacher of the Year for Samuel Gaines Academy to our viewing audience. We thank you for coming on this highlight show. Ms. Wilkie, we also thank you for joining us, and I want to leave you both with the words of Jonathan Edwards, since you told me about Mr. Plowden being a learner. It says that teachers and learners are correlates, one of which was never intended to be without the other. So thank you for being a teacher as well as a learner, because you make learning applicable and necessary, important, come alive for students each and every day by being a teacher and a learner. Thank you again and congratulations.
Thank you.
Wake the sun, tell him that I've begun to dream of things to come, and tell the trees not to look for me. I'm going to find some peace of mind. Wake the sun, wake the sun, wake the sun, wake the sun.
It's our pleasure to welcome to the Teacher of the Year highlight this time the awesome teacher from Lawnwood Elementary, Miss Jennifer White. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Joining Miss White is the wonderful principal at Lawnwood Elementary, Miss Dejan Jackson Harris. Ms. Jackson, welcome to the show as well.
Thank you.
At this time, we just want to introduce you to our viewing audience and let them know the fantastic things that Teachers of the Year all across St. Lucie County are doing in the wonderful lives of our children here. So why don't you just introduce yourself to our viewing audience? Make sure you tell the grade and the subjects that you teach if they vary.
Perfect. My name is Jennifer.
That's okay. I know your name too.
My name is Jennifer White. I'm a pre-K ESD teacher for a full-day class at Lawnwood Elementary.
What does full day mean?
Well, in our pre-K program, we have two sections. We have a half-day program for our 3-year-olds who come in for their first school experience, and then we have a full-day program for our 4- and 5-year-olds who will be transitioning to kindergarten.
And because this is pre-K, and we're used to talking about subjects, language arts, social studies, what does your instructional day entail?
Everything.
Everything.
It can go from making basic eye contact to responding to their name, and it'll run the full gamut of working on initial and final sounds of words.
Great. What school did you attend and what was your program of study?
Well, I actually graduated from the University of South Florida in Tampa.
Go Bulls!
I agree.
Your principal is happy.
Well, actually, long story, we realized that we went to school at the same time.
Wow.
So,
Great.
yeah,
Great.
small world.
Yeah.
But basically, I started off with a major in elementary education, and I was minoring in exceptional student education. And somewhere along the line, it switched, and my focus became special education.
Okay. Tell me this. Throughout the years of your teaching career, what is your favorite part of teaching?
Oh, my career. I say it's those moments where you're starting to see the students practice the skills on their own, where you've worked at a small group, you've worked on it in large group, and you may be on the playground and you see them greeting their peer. Or they start singing the songs that you've been singing word for word. And those little moments are just basically where I can kind of step back and realize that, one, I've done my job, and two, they're taking that skill set and they're able to generalize it in different environments in the school setting.
So when the instruction of the skills becomes practice.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
And I'm able to see that growth. And it
Great.
happens right in front of me.
Okay. We know that all of the students that we're teaching right now come from this information age, this technology age, even the students in pre-K.
Absolutely.
So how do you naturally infuse technology in your daily instruction?
Well, we are really technology savvy in our classroom. One of the biggest things that we use is our smartboard. I've worked closely with the ladies at Fiddlers to develop smartboard activities. So we have our classroom rules, which are interactive. They're able to go up and do a concentration game and work on reinforcing those rules, our champs expectations. We have interactive stories, we have interactive circle time activities, and then we take it further and we can work on fine motor skills and reinforce some of the skills that they work on with their occupational therapist. We also have a classroom iPad that we use for small group and individual group activities, and our student desktops have touchscreens. So the technology is accessible to all of our students, regardless of their level of need or ability.
Tell me this. You said you majored in elementary ed, special ed, and it switched. Have you always known that you wanted to be a teacher?
To be honest, no.
Oh.
I didn't always know, but I'm the oldest of 4 kids, and I always had that role of responsibility. So I think I kind of just fell into that role as well. By the time I was in high school, I absolutely knew it was a given. And I knew where I was going, I know my course to study, it was solid. But up until that point, I was always just the leader. I was the one to go to, I was the one who was helping out everyone else. And I think, I don't know if you can really believe it, but I think I was probably born to be into this role.
Oh, I do believe it.
I think so.
I do believe that many of us are just walking in callings. We didn't choose it, it chose us.
Because there's absolutely nothing else that I could say, ooh, I want to do. I mean, where else can you get up each morning and know that you're going to be inspired by something that these students do?
Thinking back to your time as a student, do you think, or can you think of a teacher that inspired you to become a teacher once you think back?
Now, I was trying to think if it was one particular teacher, but I think for me, it was a community of teachers. It was a family of teachers that I had as I was going through as a student in St. Lucie County. I mean, I went into, being the one in charge in the home environment, and I came in here and I realized that I wasn't the oldest sibling. I wasn't the one that had to help around. I was the one who was the student. It gave me a place where I was embraced, I was nurtured, and that burden of responsibility was taken off. I was pushed to my fullest potential with really not a hidden agenda. It was just succeed, do your best, and having all those teachers believe in you, you take on a different air of confidence.
Wow, that's awesome. Ms. Jackson, you get to witness this fantastic work in action every day. What do you hear and see when you visit Ms. White's class?
Well, her class is not only in one environment, it's wherever you go in the school. Between traveling to the lunchroom, students are working on that community building where they are being led by Ms. White, encouraged along the way, to being on the playground and using those social skills that they are working on come to life. Her classroom is the community of learning that happens in Lawnwood, and it really makes a difference. Many times teachers along the way stop and say, oh my gosh, look at the amazing work that is being done. And it's not work, it's just love that pours out of Ms. White and the ones that work with all of the students in her classroom. So it is an amazing adventure. And wherever you see the students in Ms. White's class, you know that they are loved, they're cared for.
Tell me this. What other activities or committees do Ms. White participate in? Does Ms. White participate in?
Well, she is a member of our school advisory council through her son, who is our student council president. And let me tell you, there was a lot of conversation that went on about the responsibility, the role, and all of that. And that was inspired by Ms. White. She also is heavily involved with bringing cheer to everyone through our Sunshine Committee. And the expertise that happens not only in her classroom is the natural leadership ability that she brings to the table. So many times experts from occupational therapists, physical therapists, counselors come and talk with her. So she is an amazing attractor magnet to others to make sure that they are getting her knowledge and her expertise.
Ms. White, when I hear you talk and when I listen to Mrs. Jackson, I hear nothing but engagement going on. We all know that our quality framework of instruction, DQ5, is all about engagement. How do you purposefully plan engagement for the little ones?
Well, the first thing that I look at is it has to be engaging to me. Because if I don't come in with that level of excitement behind the activity, the kids aren't going to buy into it either. And secondly, I have to look at where my kids are on a developmental level, not just a chronological age. So we throw in repetition, we throw in music and movements, we bring in new and novel activities. And if we get to that moment where we start seeing that we're losing them, boom, we bring them right back. We throw in extra movement. We'll bring out the tunnels, the bean bags, and we just keep such an air of animation about us that we don't let that ball drop.
I love it when teachers use music and movement, which I call dance, to instruct. As a Teacher of the Year, you're often called to speak to different people. What advice would you give to a new teacher?
Oh, a new teacher. I would probably tell them, you're going to make mistakes. Be prepared to make mistakes. Just be humble enough to use each of those mistakes as a learning opportunity. Because that's how you grow. We don't walk out of school knowing everything. And those things that we see, those scenarios that are set up in our textbooks, those are great on paper. But when you walk in that classroom, there is nothing great. Nothing that you're going to get back from that textbook. You are on your own. Those kids do not match up to that case study. You have to go in, you have to figure it out. And when you do make those mistakes, correct them. And that's how you grow as a teacher.
What would you say to a student or to a parent to ensure that they're a success?
Well, for our students, we always tell them, don't give up. Just keep trying. Just the level of encouragement that we give them. But as for a parent, especially a parent of a child with special needs, I would like to tell the parents, your child is an individual. View your child as that unique individual that they are. Don't compare them to, siblings, cousins, brothers, or even, same-age peers. Embrace your child as the individual and all the abilities and capabilities that they possess.
Ms. Jackson, we've gone through the Teacher of the Year selection, and now the National Committee is calling you about the wonderful Ms. White. The first thing they're going to say is, please describe her for us using 3 adjectives. What would your response be?
Ms. White is approachable to ask those questions, very knowledgeable about her craft and expertise, and she's just a wonderful, bubbly, spirited person who many can learn from teachers, from students, from parents. She's just all of that bag of chips and more, because she is just such a picture of what the perfect teacher will be.
Here's their follow-up, using your words exactly. So what makes her the perfect candidate for this honor?
Jen is the perfect candidate for this honor because she is humble. She studies her craft to make sure that she is the best that she can be for each and every boy and girl that's in her classroom. They deserve the best. She demands the best for them. And whenever she is asking for anything to benefit any of the students there, it's because she loves and sees the potential in each and every student. And so because of that, she is the perfect candidate, the perfect voice for students with challenges, students who have the potential to be great.
Ms. White, pre-K, the earliest part of fundamentals, foundational skills that we employ the students in our public school system. What impact do you see you having on the students' career or college readiness?
Oh, I'd like to say a significant impact. It all starts with early intervention. I mean, there's research out there that backs it up the wazoo. If we start and we build a strong foundation right now, we're creating confident lifelong learners. And it starts at this early age. We embrace their capabilities. We encourage them to be creative, be confident in their abilities. And from that, they're just going to keep finding success.
When will you know that you are a success?
When will I know that I'm a success?
Yes.
I don't know. But I can tell you, I get to celebrate success every single day just by seeing the success that my students have in the classroom environment. I see myself through their eyes. And it's a pretty powerful thing.
Let me leave you with this. John Blade has said, teachers are the important link to the future. We know that in pre-K, you're beginning to link all those necessary developmental, educational strategy skills that students will always need. And thank you for the wonderful job that you're doing every day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Listen now, can you hear the bluebirds? Oh, look up now, can you feel the sun? Can you feel the sun?
And at this time, we're welcoming to our Teacher of the Year highlights, Mr. Christopher Calvo, who is the dynamic Teacher of the Year at Westgate K-8 School. Welcome, Mr. Calvo.
Thank you very much. Nice to meet you.
Joining Mr. Calvo is a fantastic principal, a great friend of mine. We call him Mr. C, Mr. Kramer, who is the dynamic principal at Westgate. Mr. C, welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Perry. Glad to be here.
It's great to have both of you here, and it's awesome for us to have this opportunity to introduce you to our viewing audience as the Teacher of the Year for Westgate. So let's start right there. Take a minute and introduce yourself to our viewing audience. Make sure you tell them what grades you're teaching and the subject or subjects that you're teaching.
Okay. I'm Christopher Calvo, third grade teacher at Westgate K through 8. Kind of teach all the subjects, little math and science and social studies, and just have a great time doing it. So.
And what school did you attend, and what was your program of study?
I went to Florida Atlantic University.
Go Owls.
And I received a Bachelor of Arts in Elementary Education.
In elementary ed, okay.
Yeah.
Let's think back.
Okay.
It's time that you have been teaching. What would you say is your favorite part of teaching?
My favorite part of teaching, you know, I usually think about this. My favorite part of teaching is just when you see those kids finally, that light bulb goes off in their head and they're just like, I got it. I finally got it. You know, they're coming in the morning and they're smiling. They want to be here. And they're just working so hard. And, you know, some kids that are struggling, and you sit down with them and you just work and you try and find a new way to teach the kid and to teach my student. And all of a sudden, you just see a smile on their face. And they look at you and they go, I got it. That means the world to me. I love that.
The students that you're teaching have always been a part of this technology age. So how do you naturally include or infuse technology into your instruction?
Okay. Well, I use a lot of visuals. I use a lot of PowerPoints. My screen is always on. We use Google Images a lot. You know, if we're reading a story and the kids don't know what something looks like, we'll look it up. Or if, you know, I'm not perfect, and if I don't know something, we say, hey, let's look it up. We go on the internet, we find out the information that we need, and we use that. I also went out and I bought a tablet that I loaded some multiplication games on it, and it's an extra incentive for them to earn that tablet, and they sit down during centers and they can use the tablet one-on-one with them and just, you know, play games with it, and just, yeah, I'm a technology person.
Tell me this, when did you decide that you wanted to be a teacher?
Boy. Well, I've always been with kids. Ever since I was a little kid, I was counselor in training at my elementary school back in New York. And I enjoyed working with the kids. Then I ran some camps. And I originally went to school for music education. And
right up my alley.
I'm a trumpet player.
Okay.
And I realized I enjoyed playing music more than teaching it, which for me was weird because I always knew I wanted to do something in teaching, and to not have that music part was just weird for me. So I actually did some DJ work, and I do a lot of DJing. And when I moved to Florida here, I became an education counselor at the Hibiscus Children's Center, education coordinator. And I started a homework program. And just sitting at the table, and we were doing homework, and like I said before, just the kids with that light bulb going, oh, I got it. And it was at that first homework session that we had, I said, I have to do this. I have to go back to school and get my teaching degree. So I came home that day, and I was with my mom at the time, and I said, Mom, I have to go back to school. She said, why? I said, well, I have to teach. And I told her we did this homework program, and the kids were just, I got it, thank you so much. And within a week, I was over at IRSC, and I sat down with the counselor. I said, okay, what do I need to do to get back into school? And he looked at my music credits and everything. So, I had to start a lot over, because a lot of the music credits didn't transfer over. And I just went from there.
I'm an upper brass player too. I played French horn, started out on trumpet.
There you go.
So I'm with you.
That makes sense.
Tell me this, Mr. Calvo. As you think back to the time of deciding that, yeah, I have to do this, is there a teacher that inspired you think, to become a teacher as you reflect?
Yeah. My math teacher, 7th grade math teacher, Mrs. Natali, and I still actually talk to her to this day. I had her over at my house for a barbecue a couple of weeks ago. And what inspired me the most about her was she listened. I struggled in math. Math was not my greatest my greatest feature in school. And she sat down with me, and she was a friend with my mother too. And my mom would be like, all right, hey, we're going over to Miss Natali's house.
I'm going to school.
Sorry, Miss Natalie, if you're watching. And she just sat down and she just taught different ways to do math. And I got it with her. She made it fun. And that's what inspires my teaching to this day, is just, I need to make it as fun as possible for these kids.
Mr. C.
Yes, sir.
You get to witness Mr. Calvo in action every day.
Yes.
What is it that you see and hear when you go into his classroom?
You see and hear exactly what you see on this camera. Dynamic young man who's positive, who's always trying to get the kids to engage with him in one way or another. I mean, and he's right. He will shift in and out of technology in a heartbeat if he thinks it's going to prove a point. So the kids are always waiting to see what comes next. Plus, he's very creative. And so he will come in costume. He will build sets like the Polar Express to get them more engaged. He'll blow up volcanoes for cultural studies. I mean, it's just constantly that he's got this great creative energy that he puts into making sure that they're successful at their learning goals. And that's what's fun.
Tell me this, what other activities do you see Mr. Calvo involved in that help for the total operation of the school?
Chris is a highly involved teacher. He's involved in our PBIS activities with DJing. He's involved with our PTO. He often supports them with his DJing again. He also is our vets program. For our vet, every year we honor our veterans in our program, and he's part of that, and that's where he brings out the trumpet. He's also DJ'd for Relay for Life for the community. He's also been a part of our Walk for Autism, Autism Speaks Walk. And in addition to that, he sits on a number of committees, including the MLK, and he's just an active part of our PBIS program. So it's just like Chris is one of those people that is really a part of and an integral part of the school in a highly positive, highly proactive way.
Great. Mr. Calvo, I heard Mr. Cramner start off by talking about the Polar Express and things like that. It sounds like DQ5 to me from our framework for quality instruction engagement. So how do you purposefully plan engagement for your instruction?
That's my favorite.
No.
You know, I just, again, I look at my teacher and I say, what can I do to make this fun for my kids? You know, for the Polar Express, I have an 18-foot train that I built for the classroom. You know, we set up the whole classroom like a train that day. We talk about the book with the vocabulary. I use puppets in my classroom. You know, I have a puppet, my dear Aunt Sally, and she teaches math, and I have Jacques, who teaches social studies. You know, just I sit down, look at my lessons, and I think, okay, is this boring? If it's boring, you know, some things can be boring, you know, we're teaching, you know. And I sit there, I say, okay, what can I do to make it fun? You know, not just where I'm jumping around, I'll sing, I'll do whatever it takes to keep these kids engaged.
Okay, as a Teacher of the Year, you're often called to speak to many different groups at different times. What would your advice be to a new teacher?
Okay, advice to a new teacher, which is what I wish I had. Relax. You know, try not to sweat the small stuff. You know, just sit back at the end of the day and just remind yourself why you became a teacher. You know, when you feel yourself starting to get stressed out, you want to give up, just breathe, relax, and say, hey, I became a teacher for this reason. You know, everyone has their own different reason, but just remember that reason. Write it down. Keep it posted somewhere in your room and just look at it.
It's great for all of us to reflect.
Yeah.
What would your advice be to a student or their parent to ensure that they are a success?
Multiplication. Learn your multiplication facts. I say that
You get a
about
lot of
8
teachers
Sounds
doing
like a
that.
third. Sounds like a third grade teacher.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Just. You know, again, I have a saying in my room: it's better to try and fail than never try at all. I tell the kids, always try your hardest. Every day, I'm talking, learn those multiplication facts, study them. I'm sending home text messages to the parents. You know, I use the Remind app, and saying, okay, we have a test coming up, multiplication, or just over the holiday break. Make sure you're studying those multiplications. I'll give them facts to study. I tell my parents, I have a sheet that I made up of things that they can do with their kids at home in regards to reading. You know, third grade is big on reading at the end of the year, well, the entire year. But you know, I let them know, if you're reading anything, even if you're reading a cereal box, have them scan for a word. Just say, hey, can you find the word fruit in here? Because scanning is a big thing for a third grader. So I just tell the parents, you know, ask them questions, read with them.
Mr. C.
Yes, sir.
How would you describe Mr. Calvo using 3 adjectives?
Vivacious, intelligent, and I have to use creative.
And creative.
Yes.
Let's say the National Teacher of the Year committee is calling, and they're going to ask you, so why is he the perfect candidate for this honor?
Above all else, Chris tries to make sure that every child in his room is highly successful. And he has posted as much as 95% proficient rates in his classroom. He makes learning come alive, and he himself is obviously dedicated to education.
Great.
Those would be the reasons.
Great. Here we go, Mr. Calvo. Oftentimes we see in education that students learn to read kindergarten, first and second grade, and then they read to learn from third grade on. You're laying those foundational skills for reading to learn. Tell me, what impact do you see your instruction having on a student's ability to be career and college ready?
Well, third grade is a huge foundation for a child. So this is just where everything starts for them. You know, so when the child is reading, when they're learning the new words, we're just sitting down, letting them know, hey, this is where it starts for you. And again, I'm going to go back to multiplication. Just letting them know, multiplication, you're going to use throughout your whole educational career, even when you get to college. I use it almost every day. Just putting that foundation in them, putting that in the, you know, third grade, they're not thinking about college or a career or anything, but I just like dropping little hints in there that you're going to use this in life. You're going to need this when you get older. What do you want to be when you get older? You're going to use math. You're going to use reading. you need all this now. Now's the time to start that.
So when will you know that you're a success?
I'm not sure if I'll ever really know, how, because there's always room for improvement. But for me, I think when I first got the saying, hey, I'm pretty good at this, I can do this, is getting some emails or letters from parents. That it really means a lot to me. I got a nice one this year saying, my child has never wanted to go to school before until he went to your class. That really got to me. Just the kids wanting to come and learn. I think that's, you could go by the numbers, you could go by the data, you could go by all that stuff, but when you get a kid that just wants to learn, that wants to come to school, to me, that's being a success.
Let me leave you and Mr. C with these great words then. As I listen to you speak, I think they're very appropriate for you. To learn and never be filled is wisdom. To teach and never grow weary is love. Thank you for loving to teach and for the awesome job that you do. And congratulations on being Teacher of the Year for Westgate K-8 School.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. Perry.
Thank you.
Listen to me. I am captain of the track team. And if I'm late,
She doesn't really think she's going to get out of here, does she?
Be nice. She's new. Hello, is anyone there? Ugh!
Wow. Even from our standards, you look awful.
Oh, sweetie, what happened? Me? My friend Becky got to talk to this super cute boy, and I tried to act like I wasn't jealous, but I so totally was. And then out of nowhere, this concrete barrier just popped up. Maybe it was a semi. You mean you were driving? Yeah. I mean, I know the whole eyes on the road thing, but this was a super important text. Maybe you have to know, Becky.
Texting? Great.
But it was only like 5 seconds, and I'm a really, really fast texter, so it wasn't even a big deal. Actually, has she texted me back yet? Wow, I get like no bars in this place. I wonder if they have Wi-Fi here.
And at this time, we're welcoming the fantastic Teacher of the Year from Lincoln Park Academy, Miss Mary Beth Albert. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And joining Miss Albert and I today is Mr. Henry Santabria, the dynamic principal at Lincoln Park Academy. Mr. Santabria, welcome.
Thank you very much, Dr. Perry.
It is indeed a pleasure for us to have you on the Teacher of the Year highlight and to congratulate you for your honor and to thank you for the wonderful work that you're doing with the students at Lincoln Park every day. We need to first start off by just having you please introduce yourself to our viewing audience. Make sure you please include the grade and the subject or subjects that you teach.
Okay, my name is Mary Beth Albert, and I'm the drama director at Lincoln Park Academy. I teach grades 6 through 12, and I teach drama, theater 1 through 4, and IB theater.
Oh, great, great. Now, tell us this, where did you obtain your degree from?
I went to Stetson University, and I studied theater and education there.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
As you reflect back on your time as a teacher, what is your favorite part of teaching?
I'd have to say my favorite part of teaching is the energy that my students bring into the room. I just feel so excited. The moment that they walk in the room like lights up with their energy, and I really look forward to that every day.
Having an opportunity to work in the theater world, there's a lot that goes on with technology infused into the theater, So how do you infuse the technology naturally into instruction?
Well, we study a lot about lighting design, and so through that we use technology. We also obviously have to use just research through the internet constantly. So the students are always doing a lot of research-based projects, but we also study the technical aspects of building a set and the lighting design, and then they also are able to focus on sound design as well.
In studying that technology aspect of the theater, do they ever have an opportunity to put theory into practice?
Yes, they do. At some points, actually in our auditorium, we don't have all of the equipment always available, but I think that's what's really, interesting about what my students do is they're able to take what they have and make it work, and they're able to create some incredible things through that.
Think back. When did you decide that you wanted to be a teacher?
In my high school yearbook, it actually says, there's a picture of me singing on stage, and then underneath it says, Mary Beth Fink, at the time, plans to be a high school drama teacher. So I knew from, I think I was in middle school, that I not only wanted to teach drama, but I wanted to teach high school students, and so it's been a very long time.
Okay, let me ask you to continue to reflect. And is there someone special that inspired you to be a teacher?
I'd have to say that I have a lot of teachers along my way that, and college professors that definitely inspired me, but my own high school drama teacher, she was incredible. And I think it was the fact that she was like a mother to all of us, that she really sparked my interest of teaching, because she cared about each child as if it was her own. And so that's where I definitely got that inspiration.
Mr. Sanabria, you get to witness Ms. Albert in action every day. What is it that you see and hear when you visit her class?
I think I could sum it up in 2 words: total engagement. From the time you walk into her classroom, visually you're engaged. If it's not a visual aspect that is on her walls, and I would like to add that everything that she does revolves around the goal or the mission. And so you see that throughout her classroom. But then what you hear are students totally engaged. They're engaged in some sort of monologue or in some sort of scene rehearsal. They're doing something, as you put it, taking that theory and putting it into practice, so to speak.
I can only imagine that the theater teacher is heavily involved in many other aspects of the school. What other activities or committees is Mrs. Albert involved in that help for the total operation of school?
Well, for one, this past year, she was totally immersed in assisting her husband and our band director in our homecoming activities. She definitely, and not taking anything away from her husband, but she does have a sense of creativity that helped along the way with putting together our homecoming theme and making sure that it was a total success for all of our students. But not only that, she's involved in other aspects as well. She's been a sponsor for clubs such as the Inspire Club, which focused primarily on bullying prevention. She has been involved in many different fundraisers for many different charitable organizations, a Locks of Hair Foundation, where she personally cut her own hair and donated it for those underprivileged children who have long-term hair loss. She also inspired her students, some of her students, to do the same. So she's involved in all kinds of different aspects of activities, that extracurricular activities and community-based activities that have an impact on everything that we do.
Ms. Albert, the first 2 words out of Mr. Sanabria's mouth was total engagement. We all know that our framework for quality instruction, DQ5, is all about engagement. So how do you purposefully plan engagement into your lessons?
The moment my students walk in the door, they know that we move to our focus circle. So right away, they have to get up on their feet and they move to a circle. And in that circle, we stand there and I tell them, this is what we're going to be doing today. You know, these are the tasks that you need to accomplish. This is what I'm looking for. And I give them any instruction that they may need for that lesson. And then right away I say, okay, go. And then they move, and they always are either working in pairs or in small groups. If they are working individually, they always are then having time to turn toward a peer and ask for their feedback. So there's never a moment in my class that the students aren't engaged, really.
Oftentimes, as Teacher of the Year, being the ambassador for the school, you're asked to speak to many different groups. What would your advice be to new teachers?
Well, as a drama teacher, I feel like I have this advantage in the fact that as a teacher, you have to be an entertainer. And you have to be willing to stand up in front of those kids and get them excited about learning. And you have to really, I always say sometimes, I feel like I have to stand on my head to get their attention and act a little bit silly. But when I do that, boom, they're excited and they're engaged and they want to learn. And I think no matter what subject you're teaching, you really have to be that entertainer.
I think Shakespeare said it best when he said the whole world is a stage, and we're but mere players. We all have our entrances and our exits, right? Okay.
Yep, definitely.
Wow. What advice would you give to students and or parents to help ensure that they are a success?
I actually tell my students at the beginning of every school year, the first day, I say, I want you to not only be successful in my room, I want you to be successful in all of your classes. So I always tell my students it's about being well-rounded, it's about doing well in no matter what class you're in or whatever activity you're participating in, it's about putting in 110% and to never give up. So I tell the kids that on the first day.
Mrs. Sanabria, you have an opportunity to speak to a national committee about Miss Albert. And the first thing they're going to ask is that you please describe her using 3 adjectives. What would your response be?
My first one would definitely be inspiring. My second one would be collaborative. And lastly, but not least, would be innovative.
Inspiring, collaborative, and innovative. Now they're going to listen to that, but they're going to have a follow-up question that says, so then, knowing those 3 descriptors, what makes her the perfect candidate for this honor?
Well, let's look at the word inspiring. She aspires to inspire those students, and as she had mentioned, whether it be by way of entertaining or the planning that she does prior to the lesson delivery, she is already thinking about how to inspire, and she inspires through her teaching. She inspires because she loves what she does. Therefore, that is projected onto the students. Collaborative in the way that she collaborates with everyone, from others in the performing arts department to even the main content areas, math department or English department. There's some type of collaboration going on where she includes the other subject areas within her area. And then lastly, innovative. She's innovative because of her creativity. She takes the smallest thing and turns it into something that ends up becoming a pot of gold.
Ms. Albert, is there something new, something different, something exciting that you want to share with us that you may be working on this year?
So we're very excited. The students actually just turned in their permission slips today for the state festival for the Florida Thespians. And we actually were chosen this year to advance onto the state level after performing the play at the district festival. And what's really exciting about it is that the students, it's completely created by the students. The play was written by my student, Kellen Kryak, and it's directed by a student, Samreen Razumin, and stage managed and costume designed, and even the set itself was painted by one of the students. So it's just really neat to see that they created that and that it was chosen out of 12 other schools to advance onto the level.
As you look at the work that you do as a theater educator, how are you preparing your students to be career and or college ready?
I tell every parent that walks into my classroom, because sometimes the parents and the students will be nervous. Oh, I don't know if my child's ready for drama, they're a bit shy. And I always say every student, I believe, should have to take drama class at some point in their education career, because it really readies you for whatever career path you go down, whether it's you're going to become a leader within your company that you are going to have to speak in front of, or just actually communicating and collaborating and feeling, the strength to take risks. And I think that really what we do in my class and how I speak to my students is I'm preparing them for whatever college or career path they may be taking.
Let me ask one final question. When will you know that you are a success?
I feel that what I do really has so much to do with the students and not with myself. So I'd have to say that like I just said about the student that comes in and who's very shy, it's when I see that student who can't make eye contact with me, doesn't really know how to give me a proper handshake, and is very timid. And when I see that student perform on stage in front of a huge audience and their voice is strong and they're confident, that's when I know that I'm a success.
I want to leave both you and Mr. Santabria then with these words of Mark Van Doren when he said, "The art of teaching is the art of assisting discovery." And it's very apparent that what you do in the theater room with those students, you're leading them through this discovery that's going to brighten their future for the rest of their lives. Thank you so much, and congratulations again for your selection as Teacher of the Year for Lincoln Park Academy.
Thank you.
And then from this angle, it all makes a star.
I'm a teacher. Let me tell you what I make. I make learning a privilege, not a chore.
Show up
And frustration, a tool, not an obstacle. I make working hard seem easy, and giving up impossible.
And then we're going to turn the lights and everybody look up.
I make an old subject feel like a fresh thought.
Find me one. What's your reaction gonna be? Yeah, exactly.
And unconventional methods
Okay, what else?
common.
This is their world. There's nothing.
And then they die. Go ahead, go, go, go.
I'm a teacher. I make more.
At this time, we'd like to welcome to our Teacher of the Year highlight, Ms. Karen Kohler, who's the dynamic Teacher of the Year at White City Elementary School. Welcome to our highlight show.
Thank you very much.
Joining her is Mr. Roberto Bonsignor, who's the dynamic principal at White City. Mr. B, welcome.
Thank you, welcome.
Again, we welcome you, and I want to take an opportunity to congratulate you on your selection as Teacher of the Year for White City Elementary. And with that, we want to introduce you to our viewing audience. So would you please take a minute and tell them who you are, what grade you teach, as well as the subjects that you may teach if they vary.
My name is Karen Kohler. I'm a second grade teacher at White City Elementary, so I teach all primary subjects.
Great, great. What school did you attend, and what's your area of certification?
I went to school in Westfield State up in Massachusetts, and I'm certified in pre-K through grade 3, early childhood.
Okay. As you think back through your time as an educator, what is the part that excites you most about teaching?
The kids, that look in their eyes when they get it, even the frustration when they don't get it, and the challenge of helping them surpass that frustration and reach their goal.
Ms. Kohler, when you think about the students that you're teaching, we know that they all are heavily involved with technology and the use of technology on a daily basis. How do you naturally use technology in instruction?
It's used every day in almost every lesson. Using the CAVs to just project things for the kids to see better, for interaction with it. Interventions with aerobics and discovery streaming, lots of different interventions that we use. We use Capstone, we use for reading, so they can actually hear somebody read other than myself. It's used in every single lesson.
Have you always known that you wanted to be a teacher?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Always.
Always, from day one.
Thinking back then, was there someone that inspired you to teach?
No one specifically inspired me to become a teacher, but as I was in school, each teacher inspired me in a different way of what kind of teacher I wanted to be or didn't want to be.
Mm-hmm.
But that was always in me. That was just in me to want to be a teacher.
Mr. Bonsignor, you get to witness Ms. Kohler in action every day. What is it that you see and hear when you enter into her classroom?
I really see a very welcoming environment that just speaks to you when you walk in. You know everything that's going on the minute you go in, from the physical environment to the students' actions, the teacher evidence as well, and students that are engaged, are clear on expectations, that feel safe in that environment, and she's created that in there.
When you think about her interactions daily on your campus, what other activities is she involved in that basically assist with the total operation of the school?
She really naturally finds her way in mentoring and inspiring other teachers, and she does it in a way that it's to support, and they look for her for that leadership via her grade level and other grade levels as well. And she also has created that with the students in terms of them thinking outside of the learning environment and the school environment, and having them think of the community and having them think of the world and the environment. This month, for example, in December, she had a fundraiser for USPCA for pets to raise. Was it not just food, but also items to keep them warm, things that they might need. We're constantly raising money and doing fundraisers for Thanksgiving during the break and during Christmas for food drives for our children and families, which is awesome. But she has taken it beyond and having the kids also think of our environment and the pets that we have in our homes as well.
Ms. Kohler, when we think back, we know that each and every day as we plan lessons, we think about engagement. And in our framework for quality instruction, GQ5 is all about engagement. So how do you purposefully plan engagement in your lessons?
I want them moving, whether it's their hand movement, them standing up, doing anything that requires movement. So when they have answering for themselves, they have little communicators they can write. When it's the parents share, they're putting their hands up, they're constantly moving, and they never know. They never know exactly what I'm going to ask, but they do know in what sequence. So they know the routine, but yet there's a little bit of element of surprise in there too. So it constantly keeps them eyes on me, watching the others, constant engagement.
Is there something new or something exciting that you're working on this year that you may want to share with our audience?
Working, as Mr. Bonsignore said, with the Humane Society. I've done it in years past, but I kind of dropped off for a few years. And it's exciting. It's exciting to see the kids get involved in their community and to know that one person can bring in one thing, and all of those one things add up to a lot of things. And it shows them that a little can go a long way.
I think one of the greatest things that we can do is help students to understand, help students to realize that they are part of a greater community. And of course, I believe school is not just about the ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, but also helping you understand how you fit in and how you make the world a better place. So thank you for doing that. As an ambassador for education, being the teacher of the year for your school, you're often asked to speak to others. What advice would you give to a new teacher?
Patience. You need to have patience. Patience not only with the kids, which we think, but patience with your colleagues, patience with yourself. We're not perfect, and we're constantly learning. And to take constructive criticism, to be able to take that and work with it. And also to always take time for yourself. Do something for yourself. Always, always, always.
Great words of wisdom. Keeping the idea of advice in line, what advice would you give to a parent to help them ensure that their child is a success?
I like to set goals. I like to have the kids set goals. And so it's individual. If I had to think of the year as a whole, it's very frightening. But if you think about it in pieces, and it's motivational to a parent too to have goals in different subjects for their kids, just in case they are struggling and there are areas of weakness that can be frustrating to a parent. But to have little mini goals and little mini successes here and there, they're big. They're big. So I think that's good for a parent or a student.
Mr. Bonsignore, you have an opportunity to speak to the selection committee, and they just basically have a couple of questions to ask. And the first one is going to be, describe Ms. Kohler using 3 adjectives. What would your response be?
There are many adjectives I could use, but I would say a true professional, reflective, and enthusiastic individual.
Professional, reflective, and enthusiastic. So they're going to take that to heart, and they're going to process, and then they'll follow up by asking, so what makes her the perfect candidate for this honor?
You see her, when you see her behind the scenes before you go into the classroom environment, you see the true professionalism in planning, always thinking of the student, having the students in mind, and aligning that to the standards and that framework that we're so held accountable to. And she's always reflecting on her craft and asking questions, always feeling safe to receive that feedback, to really strengthen her profession and her really craft. And that speaks volumes in a teacher that's comfortable doing that. And she follows through on things that are really brought up to her with what she asks for support.
Ms. Kohler, being a primary teacher, you're heavily involved in those foundational skills that are applicable across all subject areas, all grades. How are you preparing your students to be career and college ready?
I look at it not as specific skills to get them ready, but the overall strategies and the structure of being organized and being reflective. And it's all about each piece working together for the greater good, as opposed to just one little skill, learning the sounds of to make a word or learning the numbers. It's the strategies in which go into it, because you have to be taught how to learn in order to be successful. So I think it's important to really emphasize the how to learn. What strategies are you learning? And you can apply those strategies to anything, not just adding, subtracting, using the strategies to live.
Each and every day we witness students have daily successes. When will you know that you are a success?
They tell me when I'm a success. Recently I had one of the kids say to me, "We're done already? I thought it was an early out." I mean, for them to notice the day went by so quickly, they had fun. They enjoyed their day. I mean, I know that as an adult, when something passes by quickly, I had fun, I enjoyed myself. To me, that's a success, when they enjoyed their day and they show progress, constant progress. Success is different for everyone, and it's progress.
Well, Ms. Kohler, Mrs. Bonsignor, I'd just like to leave you with these words. Teaching is not a profession, it's a passion, and it's very evident that you're passionate about what you're doing each and every day with the students at White City Elementary School. So congratulations again on your selection as the Teacher of the Year for White City.
Thank you very much.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, as we speak to the Teachers of the Year, we can remind them all that they have chosen the most challenging and the most rewarding profession there is or ever will be. Imagine the light in the eyes of a newly motivated student, or the smile on the face when a seemingly unfathomable concept is finally grasped. To all of our teachers, we say thank you for being such wonderful teachers and exemplary role models and caring people. Thank you for knowing your subjects and sharing your knowledge. Thank you for not being afraid to treat students like real people. Thank you for showing acceptance, approval, and appreciation. Every day you make a difference, and every day you do that something that truly matters. Every day you leave an undeniable mark on the future, and we congratulate each of you.